Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to DevToberfest, week 4, day 1. Wow, we're in the final straight. We've got some amazing sessions for you all this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And today, one of my favorite days in terms of topics, we've got an awesome session, a bit of a sibling session to one we had last week. It's all about CAP. We've got the lovely Robin Withers from the CAP team. Daniel Schlachter did a session on building CAP plugins with Node in the Node.js flavor last week. Today, we have a very similar session, but for the Java flavor. So I'm going to shut up now and hand over and welcome to Robin. Take it away, Robin.
Yeah, hello. So this is Robin from the CAP Java team. I'm also a member of the CAP enablement team. Yeah, so I will talk about building a CAP Java plugin today. So before I forget it, I will share the
Yeah,
screen.
before you forget, share the screen. Also, while Robin's clicking the buttons, Daniel and Ram are also in the chat, in the YouTube chat. So feel free to ask questions, give us your comments, give us your thoughts and everything in the chat while Robin is presenting. And if there are any questions left over at the end, then if we have time, we can put them to Robin.
Okay, so as said, we will today show how to build a plugin for CAP Java application. First of all, a small refresh on CAP. So CAP is all about focusing on your domain, on your business domain. You can do so by modeling in textual representation using Core Data Services language, or in short, CDS. Yeah, you can see that on the left-hand side of the slide. This is a pretty simple, one of our basically standard sample models for Bookshop. This is having books, authors, and genres. And above such a domain model, you can have a service layer modeling. Um, isn't shown here in detail, but you could have one or several services pointing to a given domain model. And this is up to you if you do the service model at first and then the domain model, or the other way around. With that, you already have like a working CAP application. Then you could choose your runtime. You could do either serve this with CAP Node.js or CAP Java. Today, we will do CAP Java. Uh, and once you have your runtime, you can also start to think about a custom logic. Yeah. And since CAP is an event-based programming model, basically all of the logic in CAP happens in event handlers. As said, we will do CAP Java. And so in the lower right corner of the slide, you see an example for a custom logic CAP Java handler. Normally, there would be a class around this method here, this Java method. For like the content here, it's just a method. And we will get into more details later. Yeah. So, but this handler basically looks over a stream of books that is presented after reading the books from the database, and we take all books that have a title and have a stock over 200. And if that is the case, for each of those books, we set the title, or we suffix the title with the word discounted. This is one of the, also part of the basically the sample application that you can generate on your own. Uh, so you get presented with this handler as a coding example. Okay, so this was a handler that is like really specific to your application. But what about reusable handlers? Yeah, because we're talking about plugins today. Plugins are reusable components. So, and in today's session, or in the live demo that I will show later, we will build a reusable component. But first of all, a little bit more theory. So why does it work like that? Yeah. CAP is following the hexagonal architecture pattern, or onion architecture, also known as ports and adapters. And this is basically that you have a core domain of your application or framework, and everything that goes around it and maybe needs to be movable, like for example, the communication with a database, you would like to change your database, for example, or message brokers or different UI frameworks or API integrations. This all goes into so-called adapters. Yeah, and the adapters they integrate via ports. This is basically the definition how the adapter can talk to the domain. And yeah, and as mentioned before, in CAP is event-based, and the let's say the integration part or the interfacing part between a given adapter or plugin and the core is an event. Yeah, so you integrate via events with the core of your application. So, and how this is done, we'll see uh, in the live demo. So a little bit more about the plugins that we can have. So inside SAP, we have the so-called Kalesi plugin, CAP level service integrations. And this is basically the integration of CAP into the sub business technology platform, or better, its services. So the BTP offers a lot of services, and if you want to integrate your application with the services, you need some, let's say, integration code and logic. Uh, and you could either code this explicitly in each of your applications and therefore repeat the whole implementation each time, or you could build it into the core of the framework. Here in this case, it would be CAP Java. But as the slide here also says, you would like to keep your core minimal. Yeah. If we build everything into the core, it would be pretty bloated and big and also bound to this specific platform. And you would lose the capability to, for example, run this on another platform or even locally. And running locally is pretty important in CAP. We don't want to lose that. And putting this into each and every application is just not from even economic point of view. You don't want to do this. You don't want to repeat the whole implementation each and every time, and it's error prone. And yeah, so we decided to go with plugins and have this like basically a first-class citizen in the CAP framework to support plugin mechanism. And we have a growing ecosystem now already of different plugins inside and even outside SAP, and also as open source plugins. Yeah, so we have different patterns. Basically, it's every time pretty similar. You have a, a modeling part because, as said in CAP, everything is about modeling in CDS. So you have a generic part that makes your model, let's say, discoverable or distinguishable from a plugin part. This is the easiest way to do so is using a CDS annotation. So here in this small code sample, CDS sample, you can see this changelog annotation. This is for the change tracking plugin, by the way. And if you want to enable change tracking for your for a given entity of your application model, so here it's for the incidence of the incidence service. It's also one of our sample applications. We just annotate this incidence with changelog. And the next thing we need to do is include the dependency to the implementation of the plugin to our Maven POM XML file. And then when you start the application, you have change tracking for this incidence entity on the database. So this introduces a database tail, but also on the UI. Next thing, pretty similar, is that you can have a audit logging plugin. This integrates one of the mentioned BTP services. Yeah. So we have an audit log service on the BTP, and you could, of course, directly communicate with the APIs of the audit log service, but a plugin makes a lot of sense here because, yeah, you don't really want to fiddle around with that manually. So again, you add an annotation here to the customers and also some further annotations to the elements of a given customer. And then you add the dependency to your POM XML, and again, you are good to go. On the cloud, you are directly integrating with the audit log service if it's bound to your application, and locally, you just write to the console log. Attachments plugin is a little bit different. It's like the second way how to integrate. There you don't use annotations, but the plugin itself comes with its own model. Yeah, this is what you can see on the top line. We are using the sub attachments from the ComSub CDS/CDS feature attachments. This is by the way a Maven Maven group ID and artifact ID. So the same as below here in the Maven POM.xml snippet. So by that, you include the model that is brought with the plugin, and then you can use it in your own entity. For example, here the items, you can have a composition to many attachments. And with that, you can basically have like upload functionality and display functionality for I don't know, an image. Yeah. Um, yeah. So enough of the examples. A little bit about the development lifecycle for plugins. So as said, a plugin is basically a handler, a very generic handler. This is the code example that you can see on the left-hand side. Once you have finished this handler, including like tests and everything, you can install this to your local Maven repository on your machine, or even later to Maven Central on the internet. Then you have either an existing application or you create a new one with CDS init here on the right-hand side. And then you add this plugin to the POM.xml of your project configuration. Then you can add an annotation or use something of the model of the plugin. And then you start your application or restart it, and you basically have the plugin already working. Okay, now enough slides and enough talking. Let us switch to my terminal. So this is basically starting from zero. I have a JDK installed, Java 21, Maven installed, and an IDE. So this is all you need. We will start with the application. And I somehow moved this Zoom sharing thing away. I don't think so. Okay. Okay, with this command, I will create an empty Java application. This is already ready. And I will start it in my IDE. So this is, as when you know Java or at all, then you already, yeah, this looks familiar, yeah. So Java applications are Maven multi-module applications. You have a DB folder, you have a SRV folder, DB folder for the domain model and database model, and the SRV model for the service model, and also for like the declaration of the runtime. And in case you need to add handlers, this is the place where you do it. But besides that, the application is empty, so we need to add some content. By the way, DJ, is the font size okay, like it is? Okay, good. So we will add some sample model. Of course, we could code this by hand, but then we would like crash the 30 minutes limit. So what this command has done, it added our basic reference model for bookshop as shown before. So we have books here, and we have authors, and we have genres, and we also have like a service with some projections on this domain model. Yeah, and also we have, maybe while I explain, I will do the initial compilation. We also have a handler already added. This is, by the way, some more complex handler, but also like the easy handler that I explained in the beginning with the discount on with order or with stock larger 200. Yeah. So this is also added for reference reasons. But you can already see here, this is a little bit red. So we need to manually fix the build path here. This is like an IntelliJ thing. Um, because in Cap Java we generate source code during the compilation of the CDS artifacts. Yeah, this is basically access interfaces and also data containers for all for all entities that you have in your model. Yeah, so for example here books and currencies and you name it, genres, authors, everything. So in order to be compilable, we need to pick the right one. We need to mark this as the generated sources root. I hope that one day IntelliJ development team will, will get it that this is like automatically detected, because in VS Code this just works and in Business Application Studio too. But yeah, nevertheless. So we can start our application. So this is pretty fast. And then we can already look at this beautiful bookshop application. So this is basically the catalog service to browse books. This is nice. And now we'll add a nice handler. Okay. So this starts basically with an empty Java class.
By the way, Robin, I don't know
Yeah.
whether it will make any difference or not, but I noticed, I think you just hit the keyboard by mistake in your either the schema or the cat service. There's a letter A in the CDS. Oh, okay, in the schema then. In the it's on one of the open windows there. The other next one there, line 24.
Yes, thank you. This would have gone wrong. No, I didn't save, but nevertheless, thank you. Okay, back to our handler. So in order to make a handler class that then in the end contains the handler methods, discoverable or easily discoverable by the Java runtime, we add a marker interface event handler to this class. What else do we need to do? We need to make it discoverable for the Spring Boot framework, so that the class is basically picked up and initialized by the Spring framework during startup. This is with the component annotation. And then we need to tell the Java runtime which service we want to actually, or for which service we want to write handler methods. Here it's the catalog service, and this is one of our generated interfaces, by the way. Here, this one that I just used. Okay. So class is now ready, hopefully. Add the over tests. Oh, by the way, this is Java. Yeah. So let me quickly finish this. Okay, so what I've just done is adding a after handler for the read event. This is basically line 14. Yeah, marking this with add after. There is an after event, and then we say, okay, we want to run after reading. Yeah, and then we tell by signature of the method here that we want to handle books. Yeah, and then we can already work on the books. So this is a classic for loop, nothing fancy. Uh, Yeah, we need to import the class. So now we have a handler method that runs after reading the books and gets all the books that have been read and then alters the title to Devtoberfest. I leave the emojis out for now. Yeah, so I have already rebuilt it. So I can go to this one and so does it work? No, it doesn't work. Don't find a mistake by now, but it should display the title here. Nevertheless, I will continue with the plugin. So imagine this had worked and it would have been a huge success, and all the other applications in my team would also like to use this small functionality to add Devtoberfest to their entities elements. In order to do so, we need to extract this logic out of the application and put it into a plugin. So we go back to the command line and we will create. Oh, give me a minute.
So while you're doing that, Daniel is saying, are you in the admin app or the browser app? Maybe it was a different app that.
Yeah, I will just check. So I'm now creating the plugin project. I need to modify this a little bit. Plugin. Version is good. This is also good. Good to go. So this is basically now a pretty simple plain Java project. And this archetype that I have just used has already created an example handler and auto configuration. The auto configuration, by the way, is used because we don't have a component annotation here, because using component annotation in reuse libraries is not a good practice. It's not a good idea to do so. So we get an auto configuration that basically takes care of instantiating this class when loaded in a Spring Boot application. But this is not a Spring Boot talk today, so not more about that. So we take this example handler as a starting point for our plugin. We rename it to Devtober Fast Handler and okay. And a few things to note here. As mentioned in the beginning, a plugin is basically generic functionality. And also, we have no access to the specific model of the target application that we want to integrate with. So in contrast to the other handler that we just wrote for the application, we cannot reference the given handler here. So we just say we want to handle all services, yeah, all services of type application service. And also we don't mention the given entity, yeah. In the other handler, we had the books entity here in the as a method parameter. So here we just have the pretty generic read event context. With this read event context, we already expressed that we want to handle read events, so we don't need to mention it here in the after annotation. Yeah, so this handler is now like ready to be implemented. As said, we don't have access to the books or to any like concrete data, but we have access to the result in the event context. This is basically written in the phase before. In the on phase, the result is filled. We will just add a small null check here. So if the result is not null, we want to handle it. We don't have books, we don't have concrete data, so we can't work on this nice type-safe models. For such cases, we have in the CapJava SDK some nice functionality, some utilities. One of them is like the CDS data processor. CDS data processor has different functionality. And this is the one that we need here because we want to modify the data that has come out of the on handler. We use the converter. So we add a converter, and the converter has two inputs, one filter to find the data that we want to convert, and one converter that does the actual conversion. So once we have converted, or once we have created like this conversion pipeline, we want to process data. And this is basically the result that we have here in event context. And now we add like some lambda expressions. What is it? Pass. So as shown in the example cases for our existing plugins, annotations are very like a key part of plugins. Yeah, so we want to check for an annotation. So only handle data that the element that is annotated with Devtoberfest. And then if we have found something, I add the small word plugin here, so that we like can distinguish this from the other one, which was anyways not working, but yeah. So this already compiles. This is nice. This one. Let's pretend that we have run through the whole development cycle now. It's anyways a pretty small plugin. So we have now installed this with the Maven install command to our local Maven repository. So plugin development is like finished, and we can switch back to our application. We delete the handle that was not working. Okay. And now we include the, by the way, I also stop the application. Yeah. So 2 minutes left. Let's see if we can do this. Okay, so we have added the dependency, and we need to add the annotation that we have defined. To the book's title. And as we have changed the project configuration, and B, the CDS model, we need to like recompile this with Maven. Okay, so this has been recompiled now. For safety, I will also reload the Maven dependencies of IntelliJ, because sometimes this gets a little bit out of sync. I use the keyboard shortcut like this. Application is restarted. So now we see the title with the appended DevToberfest plugin text that we have just added into our handler. This is nice. It's 12:30. We're done. I don't know what I did wrong with the other handler, but nevertheless, writing plugins is anyways better. Yeah. So this concludes my demo. I just wanted to show that we have a nice page on Capire listing all the already existing plugins, partially with links to GitHub repositories where you can have like a look on the existing code. They have more complexity than the one that I've shown and show more of like the APIs that you need to use. So if you want to look at this documentation page. And on the slides, I also have the link. Okay, that's it, finally.
Thank you so much, Robin. Thank you so much indeed. That was fantastic. It was actually really nice to see, the other side of the coin. I'm at Node.js primarily, but it was really nice to see the same concept
Yeah.
and the same beauty, just in a different language.
Yeah. So
So I'm just
thank
thinking, there's no questions in the chat. What I would like to share in the chat, which is I've just put a link there, as well as, in fact, let me put in the chat as well, .cloud SAP docs plugins. This is the link that Robin has in his browser tab right now. So that's the plugins documentation, and the link I shared just before that was to a TechEd session from a couple of weeks ago, Dev 100B, where Nico and I also talk about the plugin concept in the context of design time as well as runtime plugins. So if you want to sort of overdose on CAP plugins and all the goodness that entails, then there's this session, last week's session from Daniel, and the TechEd session as well.
Yeah. Small comment here, the design time parts that also Daniel has mentioned in his session, and you obviously, they apply the same way to Cap Java. So because we use the same like design time tools as Cap Node.js, and so it's basically no difference here.
Yeah, perfect. So that just goes for me to round this out by saying thanks to Daniel and Ram in the chat. And thank you, everybody, for watching live, but also all those folks who will be watching this sort of on demand as well, which are always a lot more of you then. And last but certainly not least, thank you to Robin for this great session. Thanks, Robin.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was a pleasure. Then I stop sharing.
Yeah, and I'll say goodbye. Bye from me.
Bye.
Okay. Oh, Robin's gone already. Perfect.